Guys, it's 26th of August. I'm in the middle of the street, as you can see. But Katabasis by Kuang just hit my shelf. I was waiting for the sorry for the light. Let me turn around so I can open my eyes. I was waiting for the audiobook to hit my shelf, and I just got a notification that it's in. So I'm going to start it. I just wanted to update you because I couldn't wait to get home. And can you see me? If you can't see me, sorry. I couldn't wait to get home and start it. I just wanted to get it right now. So I thought I would tell you that, hey, I'm again in the middle of the street. I'm going to start Katabasis audiobook by Arfgan. I'm so excited. This is one of my most anticipated books. So I hope it's good, and I'll update you. Where am I going? Yeah, sorry. I'll update you later. So I'm home. Let's talk about it. As you saw from my very excited reaction, I started Katabasis by Kuang. I've been waiting for this book since January, so I was really excited to start reading it when the audiobook hit my shelves, and I downloaded it immediately and started listening to it in the middle of the street while I was walking. So, let's say something about the name first. I remember when 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago when Babel came out, and people had the disagreement of whether we should call it Babel or we should call it Babel. And each person called it one of these things, and still people can't decide which one of them is the real name. The audiobook calls this book Katabasis, but I've heard Kuang calling it Katabasis in one video. I've also seen her calling it Katabasis in another interview. So I don't know. I'm going to call it Katabasis because that's what the audiobook calls it, and I'm assuming that she okayed it before they hit publish on the audiobook. So Katabasis, here we go. As I said, I started reading it in the middle of the street, and I was trying so hard to focus on every word that she said in that book, because I've heard from people who read the ARC version of this book that the academic parts are way too much. Some say way too much. And it kind of takes away from the story itself. So I was trying to focus really hard so that I can have a good judgment of the book and not say this is not a good book because I was not paying attention. So I was expecting a scientific sort of fiction, not science fiction, I mean a fiction that has a lot of, academic parts. And like Babel was a book that had this whole story going, but it had a lot of academic and historical references in it that she explained. Okay, first of all, I'm going to say this kind of doesn't have anything to do with that part of it. I'm going to talk about that as I go on. At this point, I just want to tell you one thing. I don't even know why we're talking about this. That's the reason for the pause. So imagine me walking in the street, going home, listening to the audiobook. I'm psyched. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year. I'm paying so much attention. I am so invested in this story. I love the fact that they are going to hell because I don't really know anything about hell. I mean, I know the religious version of the hell, fires. That's it, fires, scary things, eating you, screams. That version of it, I've got that version of it. I've been told about that version of it since I was a child. But I've never heard of this version of, each circle is for one sin and you go down in it. It gets worse when you go more in. I don't know anything about that. I've never read the other books that people said you needed to read before you read Katabasis. The only thing that I know about this whole thing is one part of Dante's journey in hell, and the reason I know that is because I saw a painting a few months ago, maybe 1 year ago, of Francesca and her lover, Paolo. Yeah, I saw a painting of those two. I wanted to put it on screen, but I'm sure I can't because they're naked in hell. And it's a part of the story that Dante gets into the circle of desire, which is for the lustful, from what I remember. And he sees Francesca intertwined with a man, Paolo, there. And the reason they are in hell is that Francesca was married and she fell in love with Paolo, and her husband caught them, killed them. Now they're in hell because of desire. And yeah, that's what I know about this. So I knew nothing. So I was really invested. But I'm telling you, I was excited. I was psyched. So I was reading that, and we get to a part, it's their first night in hell. And Alice, our main character, wakes up. They're sleeping right next to each other. Her and, what's his name? Peter, right? They're sleeping next to each other, and they wake up with a very natural male morning occurrence, right? And I was like, what? The whiplash was... I don't understand why that was there. So you're writing a very, very intense and informative book about descending into hell. And in the first few chapters, we have a morning, and she feels it. And why? Why? What was that adding to the story? The only thing that added to the story was that he has male anatomy. I just don't get the point of that, okay? When we see this in romance books, especially spicy romance books, it's a plot device, right? It shows that these characters like each other and they're attracted to each other or whatever. But this is not that kind of book. Why was this not edited out? Just edit it out. We don't need this here. I guess it was to humanize the characters more, but it was cringy. And I'm gonna add to this. If it was just mentioned, okay, I would have been like, unnecessary, but fine. You wanted to mention that. Whatever, it's your book. But these two complete adults who are in university, and they are doctorate students, I guess. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I remember, they're doctorate students. And this is a very natural thing, so they both know about this because, again, they're not children. They act like two 13-year-old teenagers who have spent the night for the first time with the opposite sex, and they are woken up to that. That's how awkward and immature that whole scene is. He keeps saying sorry, which, fine, that happened, it's embarrassing for you. Say sorry once, move on. He says sorry so many times. She says it's fine. Then he says it's nothing sexual. It's not even about you. Which, yeah, but don't put it like that. Why are you making it worse? He says it's not about you. She says
Oh, I know. He says, I want you to know that I would never disrespect you like this. Guys, I'm enjoying this story very much. I'm enjoying the world. I mean, I'm enjoying hell. I'm enjoying R.F. Kuang's writing. I mean, I would have preferred a little more description of hell. You know, I don't have a mental picture of where they're in. In each moment where they're in a place, I can sorta see that place, but not completely. And definitely not the whole hell. You know, it's like if I'm talking to you about a building and I'm saying, okay, right now we're in the lobby, and in the lobby you can see a desk and a piano and whatever, and you can see the desk and the piano and whatever, but you can't really see the building. That's what it feels like. Each time she's describing a place that they're in, you can see only that little space and nothing more. If she says, okay, now we're climbing a wall, sorry, we're climbing a wall, you can see the wall, but you can't see even the ground. You can't even see the ground, let alone anything else. If she says we're in a library now, you can see the library and the shelves, but that's it. And I think that picture has a problem, right? You should always know where you are in the story. At least that's what I think. So, other than that, I like the story itself. I like learning about different parts of hell. I love the magical system and learning about it. There are chapters in there, or not chapters, or sections that she writes on a subject. So it's basically story, and these mini chapters are basically where R.F. Kuang is talking to us and telling us something about the story. I can see, now that I'm saying it, I can see many people not liking that. Because if the world building is good enough and the storytelling is good enough, you don't need direct chapters talking to your audience for them to understand your book. Right? It's like if I'm writing a fantasy novel, let's take Fourth Wing. Let's go with Fourth Wing. Imagine if in the first Fourth Wing book, we were like, okay, Zayden and Violet are doing this, doing that, doing that, doing that on Nevar. And there was like 5 pages of telling us what Nevar is and the history of it. And then going on and on and on Signets. And it tells us, you know what I'm saying? If you're telling a perfect story, that information should be given in the middle of the story, not in separate parts. It's like footnotes. How Babel had footnotes, this one has chapters in it. I didn't mind them. Actually, okay, I'm gonna get to that. Keep that actually to yourself. So I'm enjoying it, but I can see that many people wouldn't. And I can see that that was not really a smart choice, in my opinion. She's clearly smarter than I am, but I wouldn't do that. Now, let's get to that actually. What I'm having a big problem with, and what makes me want to put the book down every other page, is the characters. Let's start with Peter, the secondary character. He's basically the main male character, but I wouldn't call him main at all. I think he's a complete supportive character because he has no characteristics of his own. He has no opinions of his own. He's portrayed as this very intelligent and genius character, but I can see that. From what I can see, he's a follower who says yes to anything that Alice wants. I've never seen him there are parts that he says no to what Alice says, and then Alice gives an excuse for what she's arguing about, and he says yes immediately. There has not been one part of this book that they do something because Peter, the genius one, suggests. So I have that problem with Peter. I think he's there to just be there. And if he wasn't, the story wouldn't have been any different. And now let's get into Alice. I haven't hated a female main character this much for a long time. She's one of the most unlikable characters ever. Ever. She's one of those people who think that they are smarter than other people, understand more than other people, are deeper than other people, deserve more than other people, are in every way superior to other people. And she talks to everybody like she's superior. And unfortunately, I wish this was changed. We are in her head. So we have to constantly listen to her internal monologue of, I'm the best. And I wish she said it like that. She doesn't. She's one of those people who is like, you know what I mean? You know how that chosen characters in some books are that like, I'm not as beautiful as other girls, and I'm not as talented as other girls, but I am still the chosen one. Oh God, that's what she looks like. So she has different conversations with different characters in this book. While having those conversations, she doesn't add to the conversation. She doesn't ask supporting questions from this character. She doesn't do anything to try to understand this character. What she is doing when they are talking is analyzing what they are saying in a very, very weird way. If me and you were listening to this character and I heard them talk, we would go from them saying A, B, C, D to E. Alice goes from A, B, C, D to Q, and not even a normal and natural Q, a very far-fetched Q that you're just like, how did you get there? Imagine if you're going to buy some fruits and a man tells you, okay, buy my apples, they're amazing, I grow them myself in my garden. And me and you will look at this man and be like, oh cool, he grows them himself, I'm gonna buy it from him. Or I don't like apples, I won't buy this. What will Alice do? She would look at this man and be like, he couldn't grow tomatoes in his farm, so probably the apples are not good either. Girl, what are you talking about? Everything that she says, or she thinks, because she doesn't talk that much, she thinks about, I'm like, girl, what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand her at all. There is a part of this book, okay, that they get to the circle of desire. This is not a spoiler because, you know, they're going into hell, so they have to go to every scene. They get to the circle of desire, which is exactly the part that I told you Dante found Francesca and Paolo. What Dante got from that moment was that these two people are going to be entangled with each other in pain and in suffering for the rest of eternity, but they thought it would be worth it because they love each other that much. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that very human and sympathetic way of thinking? Our dear Alice sees two people having relations. And her conclusion is they are so shallow and they are so unintelligent that their desire was this. She gets nauseous. She's like, we should get out of here. I can't believe we're watching this. And Peter is like, are you okay? I'm going to read what she says to you because it was so bonkers that I had to highlight it. I've had asexual friends, and even they don't talk about sex like this. Wait for it. Be ready because she's very colorful, if you know what I mean. Ready? Okay, let's go. Sex was not a noble desire. It was such an embarrassing capitulation. There was a kind of genuine longing, Alice knew, but in her view, it had so little to do with clumsy machinations of the body, with mashing teeth and sandpaper stubble, rough hands and foul breath. Sweetheart, I don't even know what to say. Now, I don't want to have sex ever because of, mashing teeth and sandpaper stubble, rough hands and foul breath. Who did you have sex with? Where did you pick them up? Change your partner. Mashing teeth? I'm going to move on because I can't think about this anymore. I'm going to move on to the next point that made my blood boil. Again, not going to spoil anything, but there's a character in this book. I'm not going to name them. They have a notebook. And Alice one day decides to snoop in this notebook. So she reads it, and when she gets to the last part of this notebook, they are having a theory, right? They're building a magical, because they're all working with magic, theory, and they have written all the steps to this theory. Underneath this theory, this character has written, if Alice, question mark, question mark, question mark, underlined. If I had read that and it had said, if Romina, question mark, I would have been like, okay, they are thinking to themselves, if I agree, if I disagree, if I help them, if I have a better idea, if I want to change something about this idea, if I have some other way that can help this idea. But Alice gets to the idea that they mean they're going to use Alice to make that thing happen. And she believes herself so much that she, first of all, decides that this person is going to do that, then decides that this person is going to betray her in order to do that, and then she decides that she should betray this person before this person has time to betray her. I know this character for a few pages, and I could immediately tell you what that if Alice meant. I can't tell you because spoilers, but it was the exact opposite conclusion that Alice got to. And to act on that, she doesn't ask this character, what are you planning? She doesn't say, hey, I've read your notebook and it's written X, and what did you mean by that? She doesn't try to investigate in anyway, and she goes on and betrays this person because she read If Alice question mark. What can I say about this character? Can we change the main character? Please? Can we exchange Alice for anybody? Anybody? Really? Can we? I think maybe R.F. Kuang had a point, and she was trying to make a point by making Alice the main character. It did not land. She's so dislikable that the point, whatever it was, is not landing at all. I just hate her. I hate her. As I told you, she acts on her judgment of the whole If Alice thing. I'm going to read you. I'm telling you again, she read that, did not have one conversation with this person. So this is all in her head. She's imagining everything, okay? This is her imagination, okay? Wait. If Alice, she watched them laughing, watched them rolling their eyes, and felt such a stifling, shameful rage, she almost screamed. Pathetic Alice, everybody's fool. Blank, the character, glanced up, caught her gaze, and grinned. I hate you, she thought. Faintly at first, just testing out the idea, and found, to her surprise, that it latched. It fit. She had not dared to think it before, but it was right. It was just. She was not a dog. She would not be kicked. I hate you. I hate you. Calm down. I can see that you're very upset. Take a deep breath. Calm down. Let's have a conversation about this. You're not a dog. No, you should not be kicked. But please, stop biting. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm sure I'll be back here because she's killing me, guys. She's just killing me. Guys, the internalized misogyny is awful. I know that we should talk about it, but I don't think this is the way. I am no stranger to misogyny. I live in one of the most misogynistic countries of the world. In my country, if women want to go outside, they have to cover up their hair. If they don't, it's illegal, and we do it illegally because why should we listen? It's a kind of protest, but you're not allowed to, okay? Misogyny is very real for us, but it's too much even for me. I don't think the way to talk about internalized misogyny is this. I don't know what it is, but I do know that it's not this. This is so bad. She hates women. She's not only not a feminist, she hates women, especially women who are fighting with the whole misogyny. She hates feminists, and she says that loudly. Loudly says that she hates feminists, and she agrees that they're being overworked and there is a kind of abuse in their whole learning system towards undergrads and especially towards women. But she thinks that she's so superior to other, especially women, because she's taking that abuse with a smile on her face and with her head held high. She thinks that other women are wrong because they're making sound and they're complaining about it and trying to change the system, and she's such a perfect person because she's doing what the system wants her to do. Let me read you something, shall I? People liked you better when they thought you needed them. The girls she met at conferences were like this too. You made some noise about harassment and condescension and the plight of being a woman, and they'd flutter all around you, instantly on your side, wounded attachments, the delirium of shared suffering. So now you think the fact that women believe each other and support each other when men harass them is wrong? Now you think people are so awful because they want to help? You think girls are wrong to have each other's backs in the world that nobody else does? That they believe you when they tell you you were harassed when other people don't believe them? Why are you talking about them like that? Stop talking. Just Alice needs to stop talking, and I don't know what R.F. Kuang's point was, but I just can't take any more of Alice. I just can't take any more of Alice. God help me, I don't want to continue. I love this story. I hate her. I don't want to continue. I want to DNF this book. It's making me so mad. Will it get better? Will it ever get better? I'm sad. I'm miserable. Please help me. Okay, hold on. I have more. I was so mad that here I wrote, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you talking about other women like this? So they support you if you've been hurt? God forbid. Oh, there is more. Oh yeah, there's one more. Again, be ready for Alice's thoughts. But Alice had practiced talking to angry men. She had honed this art after years of managing Professor Grimes, of learning to tiptoe on eggshells when he was in a foul mood. So many graduates had ended up on his permanent shit list for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, but Alice was like a finely tuned receiver with an instinctive sense of when to talk him down, when to grovel, and when to stay out of his way. Okay, we get it. You're a perfect victim. You're very, very, very perfect. Perfect victim. Congrats. People are trying to change it, and you're perfectly honed to go along with it. Aren't you perfect? Shouldn't you be proud of yourself? Shouldn't I be proud of you? Shouldn't I punch you? I'm sorry, that was extra. How good it felt when she seemed to abandon her body altogether, when she became fully incorporeal, drifting happily in a universe of ideas. She was very proud of the days that she forgot to eat, not because she had any... Alam mo ba? That was my dad. Alam mo po siya. Not because she had any revulsion for food, but because it was some proof that she had transcended some basic cycle of need, that she was not just an animal after all, held captive by her desires to eat and fuck and shit, that she was above all a mind, and the mind was capable of miraculous things. Oh, perfect Alice! Superior perfect Alice! You're so above all of us with our needs to eat and fuck and shit. Jesus, what is wrong with her? There's something wrong with her. She needs therapy. She needs a lot of time in therapy, and she needs to stop talking to me. I need to stop reading. I can't read anymore. I'm going to go nuts. I'm not reading. I'm just gonna read later. Tomorrow. I'm gonna read tomorrow because I can't handle her anymore. See you later. It's another day. I'm trying to be calm. I'm trying to smile and not be very angry. So I started reading the rest of Katabasis today. I'm not going to lie to you, it was not an easy task. I really don't want to read this book anymore. I'm so bored and irritated. I do want to know about the world. I like to know more about it, but the more I read, the more I realize that the focus is so much on the whole. I don't know how to say it. It's it sounds like an academic textbook and not a fictional book. The characters are not really characters that are experiencing this world. They are more, I don't know, chess pieces who are being moved in this whole hell. I can't really understand the hell itself. Yes, I can understand the logic of it. It's hell, it has different parts for different scenes, and you have to, I get that part of it, it's fine, but I can't really see the book that vividly, and it's just bothering me. And instead of talking about the whole world building and these characters and trying to have an arc for them, we have Alice Law, the main character, just saying stupid shit that make me angry. And I hate that because I was so excited about this book, and I was so excited about making this vlog and sharing my perfect experience reading R.F. Kuang's new book with you, and now I'm here complaining to you. So sorry about that. This was supposed to be a very great vlog, but it's me being mad. Oh, now we get into a few things that are Alice being completely sexist, misogynistic, and she hates women. That's just what I can say. Alice Law, the female main character, who is a woman in STEM, in a very academic setting that is not friendly to women, is a complete woman hater. And if she could, she would change her own, well, I don't even think she believes in gender. So her own sex, because she doesn't believe that people have, in my opinion, she's one of those people who don't believe in gender because of the way she talks about other things. But because I do, I'm going to say if she could, she would change her gender. And not because she sees the fact that men just talk to her and disrespect her because of the fact that she's a woman, but because she sees women as way less superior, right? She looks at other women like, oh my god, men are so much better than you. I'm gonna just let her speak. Oh, I can't even talk. I'm exhausted. I just want a better character. Why did R.F. Kuang have to waste this really great idea on Alice Law? And why didn't she just flesh the whole world out more? I'm going off of tangents. I'm just gonna read you again what Alice herself says. That the academy was sexist was such a boring truism that Alice was no longer disturbed by the fact. Boring. Sexism is never boring. Okay, until the day that we have all fought enough that sexism doesn't even exist, it is never a boring fact. It's a fact that is killing women. It's a fact that we have to live with every single day, and it's harming us. We are living with that harm, and every day that we are living in a sexist world is a fight. And calling that fight to survive and to get your own rights a boring truism is just killing me, because you're a woman. Why are you talking about it like we are making a big fuss about sexism? It's just a fact. We should accept it and move on. That's why misogynistic men who love their misogyny and feel like anytime we talk about feminism, we are attacking their rights, say to women that this is a fact and we should just accept it. And you're like, it's a boring truism. And you think just because you're using big words that you're better than everybody else? No, you're not. You're less than everybody else because you're not a man who doesn't understand sexism. You're a woman being against other women. So shame on you. I'm gonna read another one. God, I'm so mad. So the next thing that I'm going to read to you is when I got so angry that I don't understand. I can't understand women writing internalized misogyny to prove a point and teach to other women that you can be a woman and still be a misogynistic person, right? But I can't really believe writing your main character, a complete misogynistic woman who doesn't really understand her own misogyny, and how far along are we? 55%. And in the 55% of your book, you have not taught her a lesson that she's wrong. How is that helping feminist movement? Hell, not even feminist movement. How is that helping any woman? I'm going to read it to you because I want you to see it for yourself what I'm talking about. Still, there was a general consensus among the women of Alice's cohort that feminism was an embarrassing fad, a bygone fever of 70s. Alice certainly wanted nothing to do with it. She was not interested in reading Kristeva or Irigaray, in comparing everything to a phallus, in altering languages to take the his out of history. Okay, I'm gonna add something in the middle of reading this. If I am pronouncing any words wrong, first of all, I'm sorry. Again, English is not my first language. And she's using a lot of big words that I'm not really used to pronouncing out loud. I've just read them a few times, so sorry. Just pay attention to the whole point of it. She couldn't stand those screeching activists who believed the only politically just thing was to become a lesbian, burning bras, trashing dolls, the constant invocation of that scary word discrimination. It was also embarrassing. It felt less like a revolution than a tantrum. It seemed the best way to prove women were not inferior was just to not be inferior. How hard could that be? Hard, Alice. Hard. Very, very hard. First of all, we shouldn't have to prove that we are not inferior just because we are women. Okay? The only reason we have to prove that we are not inferior is because of sexism. Okay? We are not inferior by default. And we do not have to prove it to anybody. And what do you mean, how hard can it be? Extremely hard. In a society that's giving you less rights, wants way more from you, treats you really, really bad, and just tries its hardest to keep you down, it is really hard to prove that you're not inferior because they are treating you like you are and they're expecting you to be. Okay, when they are not letting women to be in some jobs because they want males there, they are not letting you prove to them that you're not inferior. Okay, when husbands kill their wives, they are acting like their wives are inferior, and those wives cannot prove that it's not true. I understand that in history there were a lot of women who were not really aware of that sexism, and they thought that other women were wrong. Okay? I get that. I get that we had to fight so hard to make some women believe that they have rights. But I don't think that writing a complete misogynistic character now in the 21st century, when we are still fighting for our rights, is the best way to go. I just don't. It's the same day, it's just in the evening. If I look weird and tired, I am really tired. But I digress. I don't know if I should actually read you another one of things that Alice said, because they're all the same, all misogynistic, weird, pointless jargons. I don't really know if I want to focus on that anymore. But you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna move on. I think I said enough. I'm just going to add to that they have a professor who is not a very good man, who's not at all a good man, and who has driven other students and advisees of him to suicide. And Alice kind of acts like those students and advisees were the problem because they were not tough enough to handle this professor, Professor Grimes. And she believes that she's so much better than all of them because she can and she knows how to. And I wouldn't even mention that because, she has this attitude to everybody. What I have a problem with is the kind of sexual abuse in this whole situation. He's her professor. And she acts like the fact that this professor is attracted to her is a very good thing. Okay, this is very layered because first of all, no matter how she acts, this is still on him. He's the professor, he's the one with the power, and he should never abuse that, no matter what his student says. And I can see that maybe she just feels like that because she thinks that this is the only way she can get through to him and be on his good side. But she still talks about it like it's something she did right. And she wants it so bad. Alice, however, was still convinced by the impossible mean, the idea that there might exist some perfect line between femininity and subjugation, wherein if she could only wear clothes that were both perfectly attractive and perfectly modest, she could both enjoy the attention that being a woman in the department got her, while also commanding respect as a scholar. I can't really tell you why I have a problem with this. I can't really find the words to explain it. I just can tell you that this is wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm really being. I'm seeing people loving this book, and I'm like, am I wrong? Maybe I'm really not getting the point. Because how are you reading all of these things and loving this book? I'm really not. This paragraph that I just read, I feel like a man could have written this about women. That they're trying to, first of all, that they are trying to have the attention without acting on it, Men call this type of women a tease, which is wrong on so many levels, right? But that's the explanation of what she just said. So you're wearing something that is attractive enough and modest enough that men are still looking at you and admiring your body, because your body is the thing that you're talking about here. Admiring your body and wanting it, but not really thinking that they can have it. So they're going to talk to you with respect. Why are you so focused on what other men think? Who cares if they pay you any attention or don't? Who cares if I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't get why she wrote it like this. I don't get what the point was. I'm gonna move on to the whole professor thing, right? Again, as I told you, she's very attracted to this professor. Maybe she's deluding herself to believe that she is because she's afraid that he sees her like that and she doesn't want to feel like a victim. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. I can see other people doing that. I just didn't get that vibe from the way she talks. Maybe that's still a defense mechanism. Maybe I'm wrong, but judge for yourself. She made certain never to accept dinner or drinks invitations. She had a boyfriend, she lied airily. She wasn't available, or to dress too casually, or even to ever be alone with him behind closed doors. All tips she had picked up over half a decade of being a woman in the academy. But oh, how thrilling it was to walk right on that line, to exist in that liminal space between virtue and sin. How her heart fluttered when his gaze landed on her during a lecture, when his lips quirked in approval at some observation she'd made. How she loved being his favorite. Alice has done it. The rest of you need to be more like Alice. Alice was both attractive and restrained, and this made her feel superior, even as she witnessed Professor Grimes disappearing into hotel rooms with other women from the conference. Alice was different from them. They were wives in the making, and she was a magician. Rebecca, why? Unless in the next, I don't know, 25%, you make all of this prove a point and make her have an epiphany of what feminists are actually saying and how she was misled by other men and actually, change really, really drastically, then what is the point of writing like this? You're a writer in a world that women are fighting for their rights, and you're writing a woman who is being objectified, basically, by her male colleagues, and you're writing it from her head like she actually loves it. She loves the attention and having the control of being so desirable that they want her and still not giving it up. That's basically what you're writing. And why? Maybe you can argue that she's trying to showcase how women are so affected by the sexism that it actually changes the way that they think in order to protect themselves. I can see that. I just don't think that's the way to write it. When I read My Dark Vanessa, I could see that she felt like she was in love and wanted it, but there were still hints that this is not okay, and she's a victim who is believing all of this in order to protect herself from the abuse that she's enduring, okay? There needs to be hints that you don't actually mean that she wants it. It's just a defense mechanism. She's trying to protect herself. The writing should tell me as the audience that, hey, look at this woman being so hurt by the misogynistic academy that she's in that she is believing it and being a part of it, and she cannot see how harmful it is. I don't see that from Alice. I see Alice as a very misogynistic girl who, if, let's say, if she sees another woman being raped, again, YouTube, sorry, being raped, she would go to that woman and say, hey, it was your fault. You made him believe that he can do this to you. That's the kind of character that Alice is. Alice is the kind of girl that would watch her husband cheat on her and go to the other woman and say, why did you do this to my life? You're a slut. You knew he was married. And why are you writing from this character's point of view? And why aren't you making a point? And why is nobody talking about this? Am I wrong? Am I seeing something when it's not there? I don't know. I don't get it. Guys, I'm back. I have coffee because, again, I'm so tired and bored. I'm tired and I'm bored. And I would DNF this book if it wasn't for this vlog. I really would have DNF'd it. I'm so bored. Okay, I'm at 75%. I should be at the edge of my seat, not being able to put the book down. And I close the audiobook every 5 minutes, if not 2. I'm just that bored. I close the audiobook, open my music app, and listen to music. And I have way more fun than reading Katabasis. I'm just so bored. And something very crucial just happened. Something that was assumably heartbreaking and thrilling and shocks you. And oh my god, how could you do this to me? You ripped my heart out of my chest. And I listened to that whole scene and, thing happening just like this. First of all, I don't believe what happened. I'm sure she's going to reverse that and finds a way to undo what just happened. I am sure, like 100%, I would bet all that I have on it, that at the end of this book, this thing would reverse itself somehow. Even though Alice is not capable of anything, I'm sure she would find a way to fix that. I'm sure. That's the first reason. The second reason, I don't give a shit about any of these characters. So do whatever you want to them. I don't care. Why would I care? She doesn't care about me. She thinks she's so much better than me. Let her handle it. I don't care. I understand writing an unlikable main character. Again, let's talk about the main character of, what is that book called? A Certain Hunger? I think that's what it was called. You don't like that character. You don't like what she does. You think it's wrong every step of the way. And she doesn't even justify what she does. She is fucked up. You know that. You still enjoy reading from her perspective. And you can still root for her. I'm not rooting for Alice. I want Alice to stay in hell. She deserves to be in hell. And I'm not saying that as in, oh, I'm so much superior to Alice. I'm sure I have my flaws, but I'm reading this character and I'm not seeing anything redeemable about her. And I'm not sure Rebecca is going to redeem her. Again, we're 75% in. She should already be changing, and I don't see any change in her. The only thing that's changed is she went from being very sure in herself to feeling sorry for herself. And that's not any better. Not at all. Okay? Anyways, if my audiobook app had a 2.5 speed, I would use that. If it had a 3x speed, I would use that, but it doesn't. It only has 2x, and I am bored. So bored. I have something to read to you, but it's not a very interesting thing, and it didn't make me mad. She was crying, and she was so sad, and she felt so sorry for herself, and she was like, why am I always in pain, and why doesn't this end? And, didn't I pay enough for what I have done? And I was like, no. You're not paying for it. Somebody else is paying for it. Why are you taking the credit? Why? I hate what happened. I don't think Alice deserved that kindness. I'm not going to spoil it. And I don't think it matters. I'm sure we will get that fixed. But I'm just going to read it for you because, how could she explain to him this numbness? It wasn't that Alice didn't care, it was that she had cared so much and a thread had snapped. Some fundamental capacity was broken. She felt hurled out of the world of meaning, feeling, attachment. She couldn't bleed anymore. She was drained already. When did Alice care too much? About what exactly? Herself? Sure. She did care about herself way too much, but it wasn't that she didn't care, it was that she had cared so much. Where? Beats me. I've been reading from her point of view for this whole long book. The audiobook is 12 hours. I've been reading this for 10 hours, listening to it for 10 hours. I have never seen Alice care too much. Actually, I would say she doesn't give a rat's ass about anybody. She doesn't even have morals. She betrays everybody that she sees, even when they're trying to help her. When did she ever care about anybody? She is in hell to get that professor because of her own agenda. She doesn't even care that, okay, he's dead and maybe it was my fault, or at least I didn't help the process of him dying. I should go get him back. No, she's just like, I want that recommendation. I don't even need him to come back to life, even if it's just his body and his body can give me my recommendation. That's fine. Moving on, I'm going to try to, yeah, I think I'm going to do that, because if I come back here, I'm going to just repeat the same thing of Alice is annoying, I hate Alice, again and again and again, so I'm going to update you when I'm done with this book. For the love of God, let me be done with this book. Please. Guys, guess what? I'm done. I finished Katabasis finally. I'm free. I'm in a big reading slump. How am I going to read any other books? But what's more important, I will never have to read any other words from Alice Law ever again. Thank God. Oh my God. I'm done. Yay. Okay. Let me give you some. First of all, I'm going to tell you what happened in the rest of the story. Not what happened, obviously, but what I think about it. Then I'm going to give you a full idea of the whole book. This last 15%, I was at 75, so 10% was boring, the most boring thing ever, because I wasn't even mad at Alice anymore. She wasn't talking to me and giving me all her bullshit ideas anymore. She was just going through hell. And this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. I was so bored. I was so over this story again. I wish I could have sped it up, but I couldn't. So Oh, yeah, I was so bored at some point of this book that I started watching TV while listening to this book so that I could just get through it. And don't be like, oh, if you were paying attention to it, you would have enjoyed it. I wouldn't have. It wasn't that I wasn't paying attention, it was that it was so boring. Nothing was happening. She was just moving along in this world, in this hell. And it was one boring thing after another boring thing. The last 15% were really good. That's the last part, and I was really interested in that part of the story. Alice was not really talking much, thank God. She was mostly alone. She had companions, but she was really in her head, thinking about what she should do to get out of there. So she wasn't talking to other people and judging them. Thank you. And she wasn't really talking to us. Her internal monologue was basically her having plans of what she should do and not talking about her past and what happened then and judging other people. So I was having a break from her ideas, and the whole story had at that point reached its climax, and it was fun to read. I liked that last 15%. I wished the whole book was like that. I had actually a vivid imagination of, understanding of that part of the hell, and I liked that. Yeah, the action was more than the rest of the book, so I enjoyed that last 15%. I was right when I told you that I'm sure that thing that happened would be reversed, and it was. I mean, it was obvious. I don't think anybody read that part and was like, oh no, I wish this didn't happen. She's gonna fix it, obviously. I mean, come on. But it wasn't bad. I wasn't really angry by the fact that it was reversed. It was good. Okay. Yeah, and but this is what I wanted to say. I was so hopeful that by the end of this book, Alice is going to learn her lesson about how she treats other women and her own, sexist ideas. That didn't happen. The only thing that Alice learned was that, first of all, studying is not everything, and life is more important than any kind of, academic field. And then she learned to love herself more and find the value of herself without another person telling her how valuable she is. I personally do not think that Alice Law should find any more value in herself. I think she's extremely selfish, and she actually needs to learn to value other people. Okay? She should learn to respect other people and not to put her own needs above everyone else and excuse it in the name of, I don't know, magic. I don't think she learned her lesson at all. At all. There was not one point in this book that Alice was proven wrong in all of the things that she did. I hated that. I hated that she got rewarded. And but you know what? It wasn't even that she did the work to get out of the situation that she was in. Every other character sacrificed themselves to get Alice to the finish line and get her back to our world. They all gave everything that they had in their souls for Alice. And Alice was the character that was rude to them, judgmental to them, and betrayed them. I don't know why anybody would ever give anything up to help Alice. I can see that people can be kind I just don't know why they would be kind toward Alice and what she did to deserve that. In my opinion, nothing. She did nothing to deserve that. I think she needed to learn a lesson and she didn't. She learned nothing. She just learned that if she betrays everybody and lies to other people and, judges them to the extreme, she would still get rewarded for what she did and be called brave and a genius, which she wasn't. Neither of those things. I don't know what R.F. Kuang was trying to write. I'm really disappointed in her. I really don't get it. I don't get the point of writing this character, this hateful character, and rewarding her for everything that she did. She didn't help one person in this book. Not one person. She didn't do any selfless acts. Other people did. Every character in this book, at some point or another, did something extremely selfless. The only selfless thing that Alice did was kissing Elspeth on the cheek. There was not one selfless act from Alice that redeemed her. There was no redeeming part to Alice Law. And I just don't get what the point of this story was. What was the point? What is the point if you go to hell and see other people trying so hard to fix all the things that they did before, only to come back not really that changed? I don't think Alice is at all changed. One other thing that I had a problem, there was no chemistry between Alice and Peter. None, zero. I couldn't even believe that they were friends. Even their friendship was forced, let alone love. They told each other, I love you. No, you don't. Maybe this tiny bit I could say, yeah, Peter loves. Peter likes Alice. Which, why? Why would anybody ever love Alice? There's nothing lovable in this character, and I'm not trying to be mean. I mean, thankfully she's not a real person, but I don't know, even when you look at the most hated characters in literature, you can see one or two things about them that make somebody love them, right? When you write morally gray characters and everybody hates them but their soulmate or partner, you can see what they see in them that makes them love them. A lot of people hate Nesta from Akatar. I can't believe I'm making that example. I don't really like Nesta, but I can see why Cassian loves her. That vulnerability that she shows to him makes him love her. I get that. Maybe I would never love Nesta, but I can get why he does. I can not see why Peter would love Alice. There was not one moment in this story that I saw Alice as somebody who could be loved for any reason. He calls her brilliant, and I don't think she's even brilliant. So I didn't buy that at all. I think the downfall of Katabasis is its main character, Alice Law. I think if R.F. Kuang had switched these two characters and written Peter, I'm not talking about their genders, okay, I'm talking about their personalities. And if she had written Peter as the main character and we only saw Alice from Peter's point of view, so very outside and very far away, it would have worked perfectly. I think my problem with this book is its main character. I think the story was just lost. We either had academic parts, which I'm going to surprise you because a lot of people don't like this book because they think it reads like a textbook. My favorite parts of this book were the academic stuff. I was my happiest in this book when it was, explaining chalk and paradoxes and how the magic worked and different traps. That's the parts that I loved. The story was just lost. It was either that part or Alice being Alice. Their backstory. And the backstory was just Alice being a really bad character. So, the story is the glue. The storytelling of a fictional book is the glue of it magical or scientific stuff and its character. That's what mixes them together and makes it perfect. The story was not there. So we didn't have that glue. We only had the logistic stuff of magic and the whole logic of this hell and how different things worked in this part of the world. And we had the characters, or maybe I should say the character, because Peter was really just there. And it would be fine if he wasn't. So we had, this is hell, this is the different parts of hell, this is how it functions, this is what you should do if you're in hell, and how people get through that, how, souls get through that. And we had Alice Law's backstory, and they never mixed because there was no story there. And I loved the hell part of it, and I hated Alice. And I hated Alice so much that it overshadowed the love of the world. So at the end of the day, I hated this book. So I think the downfall of Katabasis was Alice Law. And if the main character was anybody else, if it was Elspeth, if it was Peter, if it was the cat, we would have had a very better story. I don't think that people are not liking this book. I've heard people say that. I don't think they're not loving this book because they're not intelligent enough. First of all, rude. Why are you calling people not intelligent enough because they're not understanding a fictional book? Just because the writer of it has a PhD? That's wrong. If you're not understanding a book, that's the author's fault. The author should write their fictional book in a way that everybody understands it. And if they're not writing it like that, it's their fault. Never the reader's fault. Never. You should never say that. But even that, I don't think people are not loving it because of the academic parts. I think they're not loving it because that academic stuff are not mixed in a very natural and, nicely told story. That backbone of story is missing from this book. I think she should have rewrote the whole book. The whole, we are going to hell to get our professor back was not strong enough to carry the whole plot. There was no plot, basically. You had some characters who acted like a chess piece in this whole world. And you never knew where you were or where you were going, or if you looked at it very deeply, you didn't really get a point. And these characters, these chess pieces, didn't have an arc because this was not focused on them. They just had a backstory, which was not even enjoyable. As I told you, the backstory was ruining it even more. So it didn't work for me. I am going to give it 2 stars. I am so disappointed. So disappointed. This is R.F. Kuang. Why am I giving an R.F. Kuang book 2 stars? I gave Yellowface 4 stars, and people didn't like that book. I loved that book, and actually, this is a very good example. The main character of Yellowface is not a good person. They're not a good person. You wouldn't like them in your life, in the real world. You're not really loving them, but you're still rooting for them. That's how to write a character that's controversial. You know, that's not really a basic kind of character that are deep and layered and have a lot of flaws. And she did it in that book. And she missed, in my opinion, missed in this book. I'm really glad to be done with it because I was really suffering. Thank God I'm done. I will keep reading R.F. Kuang because I think she can write great books. I gave Babel 5 stars. I loved Babel. And now, actually, I hated this book so much that I want to go and reread Babel to remember how Dark Academia can be done by this author. I think a lot of people are going to hate me. I mean, I'm new, so probably many people are not going to watch it, but I'm sure her fans would hate me for it. If you're an R.F. Kuang fan, I'm really sorry. So am I. I really wanted to love this book. Sorry that I didn't. See you in the next video. Hopefully the next one I'm way more happy than I am now. Bye!